I'm going to text you a quote right now.
Please do.
And don't look at it just yet.
But all right, okay.
In a little while, I'm going to need you to have ready your drunkest Australianist accent, okay?
Oh, yeah, no problem. Absolutely no problem.
Okay, perfect. So just leave it there, and I'm going to tell you a little story, all right?
Yep.
All right, so come back with me to 1935.
Yeah.
A place called Coogee Beach near Sydney, Australia.
Okay.
So in the wake of the Depression, the area's main attraction, Coogee Pier, had recently been demolished. And Coogee Pier had been home to a 1,400-seat theater, a ballroom, a penny arcade, and a restaurant.
Okay.
But with those things gone, there just wasn't really like much reason for people to come out and like spend their money there, which was a problem for Bert Hobson, the proprietor of Coogee Aquarium and Swimming Baths. Now, there'd been a spate of shark attacks in Australia recently, and people were terrified, but also fascinated by them. So Hobson and his son set out to catch one to put in their new 25 by 15-foot pool.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, they had managed to reel in a small shark, and they were ready to bring it to shore when suddenly that shark attracted a much larger 14-foot, 1-ton tiger shark, which promptly ate it and then got caught in the net. So for them, they were like, this is an absolutely perfect catch for our aquarium. Yep. Although I might point out again, their tank was 25 by 15 and this shark was 14 feet long. So
1 ton, 14-foot long tiger shark.
Wow. Yes. Yep. But the tiger shark did its job in attracting visitors that they needed for about a week.
Okay.
Then came Anzac Day, a major holiday for Australia and New Zealand in remembrance of those who fought and died in wars. It's like Memorial Day on steroids. And people flocked to the aquarium to see this incredible catch, but the tiger shark wasn't doing so hot.
Uh-oh.
It was bumping into walls, it was moving around sluggishly, and it kept sinking down to the bottom of the tank like it was being weighted down by something inside of it. And then it puked, which I did not know was a thing that sharks could do, but this one sure did. And anyone who knows anything about tiger sharks knows that they're the garbage disposals of the sea, sure. And they will eat absolutely anything, whether it's like other animals or like metal, whatever they come across. You find weird shit when you cut open a tiger shark. Yep. So naturally, it was a very weird mix that this thing horked up. A rat, a bird, a lot of foul-smelling brown stuff, and a human arm.
Hey, there we go. There it
is. So people were pretty convinced sharks were aggressive man-eaters at this point, and thus it was initially assumed that the arm belonged to the victim of such an attack. Makes sense. Upon inspection, though, the coroner realized that this arm hadn't been bitten off by a giant fish. It'd been cut off cleanly with a blade. This was no shark attack, Mark. This was a murder.
This was clever body disposal, wasn't it? This was a fucking plan. Somebody had planned this. That's what I'm hearing.
More than likely, it's just a shark that happened upon some debris in the water. But
okay,
you know, but that was a thing that people thought at first. Like maybe someone had like planted it somehow. Maybe even it was a practical joke.
Yeah.
Like, how did this arm get in here? They don't even know that tiger shark was the one that consumed it. It might have been the shark that the tiger shark ate.
Exactly. Yeah.
Who knows? Somehow this human arm ended up inside of this shark. And obviously in 1935, there's no DNA testing to figure out whose arm it was, but Australia was able to use newly developed fingerprinting technology to identify the owner.
No tattoos or anything, no?
Well, he did, but we'll get there. The arm belonged to a man named Jimmy Smith, who'd gone missing a couple weeks earlier. And his brother confirmed this to be the case when he saw a photo of the arm in the newspaper, which showed his unique tattoo of boxers squaring off against each other with their fists up. You see, Jimmy Smith was a former boxer who wasn't quite skilled enough to make it as a professional. So instead, he turned to running a billiards saloon and organized crime. Jimmy got in with some of the big dogs of the Sydney crime scene, including a boat building mogul named Reginald Hawthorne, who used his business as a front for a grip of criminal endeavors, from insurance fraud to forgery to heroin running and on and on and on. And Jimmy was cursed not only with being a mediocre boxer, but also being a real dumb motherfucker. Anyone who's ever seen like a mob movie or anything like that knows that a really bad idea when you're working for a major crime kingpin is to betray that kingpin. They don't take kindly to it. They tend to get a little stabby or shooty or cement sharky when it happens. And Jimmy Smith did exactly that. Hawthorne had a yacht called Pathfinder, which he'd insured to the gills for the purpose of then destroying it and collecting the money. He recruited Jimmy to do the deed of sinking the boat for him, a thing that Jimmy had done for him or various similar kinds of things many times before. And so he did. And boat at the bottom of the ocean, Hawthorne.
You want to sink a boat, you go and see Jimmy.
As they say. Hawthorne set about filling out paperwork to collect on the insurance. Only it turned out our man, Jimmy, had already gone to the police and reported the sinking as suspicious.
Jimmy, which meant, you dumb fuck.
Right, it's so stupid. And this meant Hawthorne didn't see a dime from the destruction of his very expensive yacht. So, not great. But Jimmy's idiot plays didn't stop there. He also decided it would be a cool money-making idea to blackmail Hawthorne with all the info he knew about the crimes he'd been helping him with up until that Pathfinder debacle. For some reason, Jimmy thought Hawthorne, who also owed debts and was struggling as a result of the Depression, was just going to be like, yeah, okay, I'll keep paying this guy indefinitely not to spill the beans about my criminal operations. I'm sure, Mark, you'll be startled to find out that that was not Hawthorne's attitude about it.
Well,
crazy.
I thought our cold open had reached a happy ending.
Yeah, with his foolproof plan, Jimmy lived happily ever after. No, the way Hawthorne saw it, Jimmy was now a terminally irritating loose end who'd already cost him a fortune on the Pathfinder and wasn't going to get another red cent from him. And it was time to clean up shop, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
And at home, if you don't know what I mean he's going to have Jimmy killed.
Jimmy sleeps with the sharks.
Exactly. So now there was another guy. I mean, there's lots of other guys. It's a criminal ring. But a particular other guy involved with this, a forger by the name of Patrick Brady, who'd grown up in a solid family of good repute, but found that he had a knack for forgery during World War I when he would forge generals' signatures. He and Hawthorne and Smith worked together quite closely on their scams, and on the last night Smith was seen alive, he was seen with Pat Brady. They were spotted drinking and playing cards at the Cecil Hotel before heading over to a cottage Brady had rented on Longby Street in Cronulla. Later, a, quote, disheveled-looking Brady took a cab to Hawthorne's house without Smith.
Uh-oh.
And while police hadn't previously been aware that Hawthorne and Brady had any connection to one another, they were able to track his movements that night simply by talking to cab drivers who were happy to explain to them the movements of the people involved.
I saw him. He was in my fucking taxi.
So they soon had their two main suspects here, Brady and Hawthorne. But they also had one really big problem. Can you imagine what that might have been, Mark?
No.
The problem is that a severed arm isn't exactly proof of a murder.
Of course.
Yeah. He could be walking around somewhere right as rain, albeit down an appendage. So they were met with the challenge of trying to nab these two guys in a crime they couldn't totally prove had even happened. And one of these guys, no, go ahead.
It was just the arm that came out of the shot. There was nothing else. That's frustrating.
Right? Literally nothing else ever turned up. Just this one arm, which happened to be the one appendage that could very easily identify this guy too. But also Hawthorne, despite his criminal endeavors, was actually a pillar of the community. That's why he was like, he needed to get rid of Smith so badly, was that he would destroy the facade of an honest business and family man who donated to the church and helped those around him. Like, he was running all this stuff, but on the outside, everybody thought he was like this really good guy.
Huh.
So he had to stop Smith from ruining that for him with the blackmail. So the cops ended up nabbing Brady on forgery charges instead. But once they had him in custody, he started talking, mostly because they started questioning his wife to the point where she was sobbing, and he gave in. Before that, for 6 hours, they'd been pressing him, and he was like, nah, not telling you.
No comment. No comment, mate.
Brady pointed the finger at Hawthorne as the mastermind of the plot to kill Smith, although he claimed that he himself had not done the killing. And this is actually potentially true, by the way. Brady was only 5'4", my height. And you've met me. I don't exactly cut an intimidating figure, do I?
No.
So, as we know, Smith was a former boxer. So the idea of Brady overtaking him is a little sus. Further, Brady's wife years later claimed to have gone to the cottage to see what he was up to, thinking that he was cheating on her. And upon arrival, she said that she overheard multiple voices inside drinking and playing cards, suggesting more people might have been involved. And in fact, Australian legal historian Alex Castle theorizes that Brady had actually been out fishing when the murder occurred and came back to find Smith already dead. So he may not have done it. We don't know. We can't know that for sure, but regardless, the story actually hasn't finished being absolutely batshit at this point. Realizing that the cops were onto him and his entire life was about to be over, Hawthorne grabbed a bottle of gin and hit the water in one of his speedboats. As a crowd of spectators gathered to watch, Hawthorne led police on a chase around the harbor.
Yes.
Stopping occasionally, then jolting off whenever the police would get close to him, like some sort of cartoon.
Beautiful. Ah, you bastard.
He managed to down pretty much the entire bottle of gin. Then, clearly inebriated, he stood up and announced incoherently to the assembled crowd.
Oh, is this me?
This is you.
Okay.
Announced incoherently to the assembled crowd.
Jimmy Smith is dead and there's only another left. If you leave me until tonight, I'll finish him.
No idea what it means.
No.
Just what he said.
The drunken fucking ramblings of an Australian con on a 5-star GTA style speedboat police chase.
Exactly. Then he shot himself in the head
and
dropped into the water.
Wonderful.
But he didn't die. He'd only managed to graze his temple, and then he managed to pull himself back onto the boat.
So he stood up, announced that, shot himself badly,
fell in the water, back onto the boat.
What a
it's pretty embarrassing. It's truly embarrassing. Police were able to arrest him, and when he was asked what had happened, he claimed that actually Brady was the one who was the mastermind behind all of this and who had done the murdering, and that he'd come to Hawthorne's house with the severed arm in order to blackmail him.
I see.
Which, you know, that could also add up to, we know that he took a taxi from the cottage to Hawthorne's house. However, Hawthorne knew a few too many details about the cottage where it had happened, and the cops were like, yeah, you're clearly an accessory to murder.
This entire thing reads like the plot of a post-Pulp Fiction late 90s Roger Avery style rip-off crime thriller. Maybe Joe Pesci is in it.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
You know what
I mean, this whole thing, as I was reading about it, I was like, it is so cinematic and like in that very like stupid way.
Yeah.
Like this very inept, ridiculous archetypes of people too. But yeah, so on June 12th, 1935, police came to Hawthorne's home to bring him to court for the coroner's inquest. But when they arrived, they found Hawthorne in his car, slumped against the door with 3 bullet holes in his chest.
Yikes.
Presumably, he had carried out one final act of fraud on his way out. See, he'd taken out lots of life insurance on himself in the same way that he would have on the boats that he destroyed and defrauded earlier. But that life insurance would have been voided in the event of his own suicide. So what did he do? He put a contract out on his own life.
Beautiful. And
took 3 bullets to make sure his family could get the payout. So without Hawthorne to testify and without an actual body to prove that there had even been a murder, it proved impossible to pin the crime on Brady, and he was acquitted of all charges. And to this day, what's come to be known as the shark arm case remains unsolved.
Feels a bit on the nose, the title of that case.
It cracks me up. Like, I was like looking up all these articles about it. And it was like shark arm case, shark arm case.
What
like,
should we call the case?
That can't be what they call it.
What are the shark arm case? I'll have it.
I almost respect it. You know, they give so many cute
names
to these like murders and things like that. And they're just like, there was a shark and an arm came out of it. What
about the shark arm case?
You're not going to confuse it with any other thing that ever happened. Yeah. Someone asked you if you ever heard of the shark arm case. Not like, oh, which one was that?
Elaborate. It's the one with the shark arm.
So thank you to Jason Codera for posting a little taster of that story in meme form in our Facebook group. Very nice. And causing me to have to go and look up more. And in fact, I love that like Laura then commented and was like, I need to know more. CoRri, dive in. And
dive in, you did.
Dive in, I did. The only thing I'm diving into is research. Certainly not the waters of Coogee Bay.